the Brown boys, the Brown boys, the Brown boys, we the Brown boys, the Brown boys, we the Brown boys. All right, so I have the Willie D interview with he's a lawyer, Dennis Spurling. And this seemed to be a very based and unbiased dude. And he just give you the facts, man. Do what you want to do with it. Get mad, get fat, die skinny. Say he a coon, say you want to do whatever. But he practices law. And he just gives an unbiased opinion on it. And I think this is what I give Willie D credit, because whatever you say about Willie D, whatever you say about his takes, you could say he racist, you could say whatever. At least he brought somebody on that he does not agree with, challenged his thoughts, had him on, had a respectful conversation, and he opened it up to his platform for the disagreement. A lot of these people, when they disagree with someone, they won't allow someone on their platform that disagree with them, or they'll bring them up. And no matter whatever the dude's profession is, they will talk over the person that's supposed to be doing this by trade. So I think Willie D did a good job of bringing this type of brother on. He's black, he's from the hood, he's educated, and he's still saying what he said. So I'm gonna let y'all hear it, and I'm gonna go off camera for a bit because I'm gonna roll up this tobacco, and I'll be back. No, I'm rolling up that swagger. Y'all be ready for that swagger. I'm rolling up that swagger.
At all about this,
Willie, the only thing I did was
intriguing case. Dennis, have you changed your mind at all about this?
Willie, the only thing I did was explain how the jury arrived at the guilty verdict. That's it. Mm-hmm. The question is whether or not they had evidence sufficient to give rise to a murder conviction. And the answer is still yes. So we look at the video.
Hey, Willie D scratched his chin. The answer is still yes. Willie D said, I want to put these paws on your ass. But look, Willie D held it in the road. If this was in the streets, everybody else would be like, you're a fucking coon. This isn't that. At least Willie D gave him the floor to hear him out.
The question is whether or not they had evidence sufficient to give rise to a murder conviction. And the answer is still yes. So we look at the video, consider the 20 people who testified for the prosecutor, the 4 people who testified for the defense, all the other physical evidence, the expert witnesses, and the jury saw all this and came to the conclusion that the young man, Karmelo Anthony, was guilty of murder. That hadn't changed because the jury's verdict. My opinion hadn't changed because the jury's opinion hadn't changed. They saw all this evidence and then they came to that conclusion. We went over the statute in detail. Now we can piece this out and kind of figure out, well, what was the jury seeing? What did they see? What did they think? But we still we didn't have the benefit of sitting in the audience. I'm sorry, sitting in the jury pool and listening to all the evidence that was included. And that's the only thing that matters. So no, my opinion hadn't changed as to why the jury, no, I don't think this is an invalid finding by the jury. So it hadn't changed in that regard.
So you see the video, you're watching the video right now, and you see what's going on. You see people under that tent. You can tell there's a lot of people under the tent because the area under the tent is dark, and you can barely see any bleachers toward the top. But now you see to the right, that's Austin and his brother and their goons charging. Look like they're charging towards the tent, like they're being really intentional, charging toward the tent. I mean, that don't say anything.
Willie, I don't see anybody charging towards the tent. Now you can say they're charging. I see some children, some young high school kids walking in the direction.
And I will say this, Cardio Royalty or somebody, he asked me, he said, Kwame, what would you do if somebody was in your locker room? And I had to pause for the cause and think about it, because if someone was in our locker room with our stuff and just it being our territory, I would have probably been the one to have to get them up out of there. Everybody would have called me, Kwame, they're in the locker room. They might have would have had some problem with it, but they would have brought me over. And that would have probably been my job to get the person out the locker room, because there's no way you coming into our locker room. And so if track and field is like that, I understand that. You can't be in our locker room. So yeah, I understand that part of it. And no, I wouldn't have got the teacher in high school. You gonna get the fuck up out of here, probably. But I would come diplomatic. I would probably say, come on, bro, you gotta get up out of here. But we definitely would have had a problem with somebody being in our locker room.
Of that memorial tent, which is in black and gold, I don't see anybody charging, Willie D. I'm just saying I see everybody walking about the same pace. I'm just saying, Willie D.
If they actually
hold on, Willie. This is why people don't like me now, Willie. Willie, I've been catching all kind of hell. You invited me on the show, right? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, Willie. And now all these people angry with me for telling the truth. It's the truth. I mean,
but here's the thing, though. Like, you know, we're speaking from a legal standpoint, and that's why I brought you on, because I respect you speaking from the legal standpoint.
You said what? I don't understand what you don't get. I'm saying I was posed the question, what would you do if the opposite team was in your locker room? And I said I would have had a problem with that. And I didn't know track was like that. I was ignorant to the fact that this is how track is. But someone said there's a track and field type of culture. There's a track culture where you can't be certain places. And if that's the case, and I had to compare it to a locker room, then I have to say, yes, I would have had a problem with somebody being in the locker room. That's the question that I answered. I hope you understand now.
You know, I'm speaking from a layman's standpoint. I'm not the person going out here doing any extensive research, and I'm not a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? I'm a layman.
Hell no, I wouldn't say that.
Citizen of this country, and I'm a resident of Texas. And what I see is some bullies who accosted this boy who was minding his own business, and one of them ended up dead because he put his hands on him. Like, we love to talk about how people need to keep their hands to themselves, and we're all for anti-bullying until the narrative don't fit like we want it to.
Well, even if somebody's bullying you, if they're not bullying you and your life is not threatened, you don't have a right to use lethal force against them. If someone hits you, you have a right to use proportional force in defense. Willie, I mean, look, man, you and I both know that we have a lot of young men out there who, when they get afraid or they get angry, they overdo it.
Okay, well, brother, I don't know. See, that's something. I was just answering a question from somebody else who ran track like you did, and they said from their perspective, you can't go in nobody else's tent. So that's all I'm saying. So your perspective is that people can move around. It's not that serious. When I didn't run track, but we had like field day and shit like that, and we was in everybody's tent. So I don't know much about track. I don't know much about track culture. The only thing I thought was Karmelo Anthony should have been charged with manslaughter, because I don't think that he came there with the intent to stab somebody. I don't. I think he had the weapon that he shouldn't have brought, but I don't think he came there with the intention to stab somebody. That tent is where people keep their items when they are competing. They keep wallets, purses, and backpacks, etc. See, I can understand it from that standpoint, that if I put my stuff down in a tent, I don't want everybody else that's not a part of our track team in the tent. And therefore, we can see who stole what and who did what. If people are all just willy-nilly in the tent, then things come up missing. How do we get a chance to know who did what? So I understand that. But I still don't think it should have led to a stabbing. I still don't think he should have got 35 years. I still think it should have been manslaughter.
And that's the situation we're dealing with. It just so happened that the defendant in this case is black and the victim is white. But this happens 100 times a day in the black community. Whether or not you get punched in the face because you looked at somebody wrong, you can walk away from that. We still have a lot of young boys and men out there who are over emotional with their response. And it's not just.
This happens 100 times a day in the black community, which is facts. In the black community, we say a nigga should have put his hands on him. Motherfucker shot him because dude punched him in the face. It's a bigger dude, punch a smaller dude. He smoke him. He go do 10 years, 8 years, and get back out. And everybody know him for the dude not to touch because he'll pop you with that pistol. This happens all the time. It's not like the person go free though. You're not gonna go free. They're gonna understand. They're gonna put those in as mitigating factors. But your ass going to jail. You are going to jail. I know people that I grew up with that had this type of response to somebody just being bigger than them and fighting them. Yes, they understand that you got beat up, but they're not going to let you just kill somebody because they push you or slap you or punch you. In the streets, in the hood, that's probably going down a day somewhere. There's going to be a bigger dude, punch a smaller dude in the mouth. That smaller dude is going to pull out a pistol. He's going to shoot him. And if the jury see that you could have done something different, you're going to get a manslaughter charge. It happens all the time. And then this kid admitted that he stabbed him. If he had not said nothing, it could have been a different finagle. He admitted everything on the audio.
One race or the other. We got a lot of young men who don't know how to control their emotions. This just so happens to be a case where we have a death, and now society has to deal with it. But if you want to put that video back up, let's go ahead and break that down, and we could try to put ourselves in the place of the jury and see what the jury saw. I'll give you my legal take. If you want to run it all the way back to the beginning, I'll tell you what I see. Now, again, if you look from right to left, the highlighted part, that is Austin Metcalf and those gentlemen. If you can pause the video right there. If you can pause it right there, Willie. If you're able to pause it or run it back real quick. Those two young men he's walking with, you can slide it back a little bit. All right. Now I want you to, okay, stop it right about, keep going. Stop it right about there. Okay. So those two gentlemen are not Austin Metcalf's brother. Austin Metcalf walked in, that's him with the shorts on, with the black, appears to be a sweater and some shorts. Those other two gentlemen, apparently his friends or schoolmates. This was supposed to be, the way people have it pictured is that these are a bunch of white boys picking on a black boy. But when I look at this young black man in the blue hoodie, he's clearly not white. So this was a mixed group of friends. This wasn't this is not 1955 when you have a young black teenager surrounded by a bunch of white boys who are bullying them. This is a mixed school district. These boys play football together. On what Texas football team do they don't have a bunch of brothers on a young black man on the team? So this is not just a bunch of white. Now I'm just looking at what the jury look. I don't know what the jury contemplate, because when those people go behind those closed doors, this is what they contemplate. But if we're gonna make this out to be racial, this is hard for it to be racial if you're in a mixed group of friends. And mind you, these are the same group of quote unquote, you said they were rushing over. They don't look like they rushing to me, but that's okay. But this is a mixed group of young men. Yes, Austin is white, but those two gentlemen, we don't know what color the young man with the black hoodie on and the pants are, but we know that other young man is not even white. So how can it just?
But we also know just because they're not white don't mean that they're not some flunkies. You know what I'm saying? He always got a flunky or two hanging around white folks. So that don't mean nothing just because he's black.
Okay.
What I understand, it was a black guy who called him over. The guy named Eddie was black. That's the guy who called him over and said, "Hey man, come sit with me." He's the one. Like it sounded like to me, Eddie set Karmelo up.
Well, I don't want to go that far. I don't know Eddie, but I do know that there was a young man named Eddie who testified on the stand, I believe, and said that he basically denounced even knowing Karmelo Anthony, saying, "I didn't know him." And then the defense attorney showed some photographs of them hanging out at least 2 or 3 times in the past. I think they hung out at least 3 times a week. So obviously they were familiar with.
Right. They want somebody to say something for this young man that even his friends didn't say. His homeboy got the hell away from him like, "Nah, nigga, I ain't got nothing to do with what you did. I'm not your friend." So if your own homeboy, the person that you actually know, is sliding away from you, then that means he don't want to be a part of the shit that you said and did. He don't want to be a part of that because he wouldn't have handled it that way. So I know certain people gonna diss him. "Oh man, they ain't no real ass friend." No. Sometimes if you wouldn't handle something a certain way, you being a friend is just sliding out the way. "Nah, man, I don't really know dude like that." Because you don't want your words to affect them. So you just sliding out the way, especially if you ain't no street cat and you indoctrinated and you gotta be there. No, If I'm on my own free will, nah, I don't know dude like that. Hell no. He got scared out the situation. That's, man, y'all coming up with these theories. I done had some homeboys that done reacted on the spot. We came with each other. They done reacted on the spot like I wouldn't react. And you think I'm finna go down with you just because we walk with you? The law is if y'all come together, you responsible for what another person did. You got me fucked up. I believe that's some bullshit. I'm responsible for myself. Just because you walking up the street with me and we walk in the door somewhere, I'm not responsible for what the fuck you do. They only trick street niggas with that. No, sir. I'm an adult male. I've been this way since a kid. Since a kid, I want to be judged for what I do. Fuck you and your weak ass mentality and mindset that you want to lump everybody together. It could be 10 personalities in the room. They don't give us black men the authority to have our own brains. They group us up. But if they had 6 white boys together, they would treat them like an individual. They're not going to make one white boy responsible for what another white boy did. They'll make all you niggas group up and make you responsible for what each other did. You're not going to do that to me. I'm not responsible for no nigga, for no human being. Whatever they choose to do, you judge them for what they did. I got brothers, I had a mother, I had a father, and they say things that are different than what I would say, and vice versa. You think my brother would say everything I would say? You think my brother would handle everything the way I would handle it? No. So you got to give people the ability to be individuals within a group. I'm not with that, dog. I fuck with you because we talk about sports. We do this. But this part right here, I'm not with that, my nigga. And I don't give a fuck what the laws say. They got to stop making people do this group think shit. Because I'm not a group thinker at all. I argue with the group quick. Nigga, oh, no. I'm cool with this part right here, dog. For real, I'm cool. Oh, nigga, you ain't down. No, I'm not, nigga. I'm down with me. What you mean? I'm down with me, nigga. DT gifted 10 Kwame Brown Bus Life membership. Appreciate it, bro. But let's get back into the topic real quick. I got this swagger, boy, looking all good. I got it in the paper. Get a little lip whipper. Ooh, boy, ooh, ooh. Let me get a little higher for the camera. Ooh, boy, that swagger is going to be perfect. I'm letting it dry out right now. Salute, bro. Appreciate it. Let it dry out right now.
Each other. Why the young man would deny knowing him, I can imagine, because Karmelo's hot. Okay, but if we go back to this incident, if we go back to this right here, I see 3 young men. One of them is Austin Metcalf, and another one is this young man in the blue. Clearly, is not white. So we can't just say it's a bunch of white boys picking on Karmelo Anthony. What I said was Austin was walking with some other young men, apparently on his football team or from the school. So race always plays a part, but this begins to eliminate the idea that it was all racial. Maybe it was just kids bullying kids. Maybe.
And you know what's crazy? Nothing in this video that they said happened actually happened. They said it was Austin Metcalf and his brother was jumping him and bullying him. Then they said it was 4 people. Actually, none of what they said happened. And that's what's bad. None of what they said happened in the actual video. They walked over looking like they got the news that somebody strange was in their tent. And they went over like, okay, we finna check this shit. They went and got big dude, Austin Metcalf came over there. He pushed him. He shouldn't have put his hands on him. He pushed him, dude, and jumped up and hauled ass. I don't think that's enough force. You're telling me as a 7-foot man, I'm going to have a child that's bigger than most. You telling me if my child say, get out the tent, when the coaches and everybody said, protect the tent, if my child say, get out the tent, man, get the fuck on, then you think I'm going to be okay if somebody stick my child in the chest and walk away, and you won't think I want them to go scot-free? I want that motherfucker to get 100 years, like Plies said. But in this situation, with Austin Metcalf, with him running, I wanted to know what he thought. With all these ailments and all the stuff that people are saying about him, I would have loved to see him get on the stand and hear him say from his words, so I can understand, was this just a young kid that's from the hood that brought this racial divide shit out into the suburbs, and he let that fuel his reaction? Or was it a kid who was actually scared that he was going to get beat up and jumped? Was it a kid that had no physical prowess, as like they're trying to make, but even though he's 140 in size, somehow they're saying that he was getting ready to go to college on a scholarship and all these other stuff for football? So if you're able to get a scholarship for football, you got some type of physical nature about yourself. And a lot of these situations, I believe, come from the media spinning a narrative a certain type of way. And now these kids are walking around with this animosity through critical race theory and all this black and black and black. And I think that's what it is, because you don't always have to make every encounter about your goddamn color. Sometimes you just out of bounds. And when I'm out of bounds, I'm going to get back in bounds quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that's what I wanted to know. I would love to see him on the stand. Love the new setup, bro. Happy Father's Day. Salute. Appreciate it. I would have loved to see him on the stand, man, just to hear from his perspective. That would have helped a lot.